All right, Wilson, let's get the week started, shall we? It's going to be a busy week here. It's 46 degrees in downtown Billings, and here's a look at first news. It's fair, it's accurate. You get the damn truth. Lebanese are surveying damage. Israelis hit some more Hezbollah-run branches over the weekend, one of their financial institutions, one that funds attacks on ordinary people. Hezbollah has a strong presence in Beirut, and Israel military continues to weed out these ruthless terrorists and put an end to it once and for all. They took aim at their financial arm, by the way, because without funding, they can't buy these military drones and missiles that they've been using on Israel. Most of them, by the way, coming from Iran. In the coming days, Russian President Vladimir Putin will be shaking hands with multiple world leaders, including those from China, India, Turkey, and Iran. They'll be in Russia for the summit. The gathering defies predictions that war in the Ukraine and international arrest warrant against Putin would keep him off the global stage. Analysts said that for the Kremlin, it's all about optics of standing with their allies amid continued tensions with the folks from the West. And there was a big video that made its way through the media channels over the weekend showing North Korean recruits lining up to collect Russian military fatigues. It's been released by Ukrainian officials. Ukrainian officials said the video shows North Korean soldiers standing in line, pick up bags, clothes, and gear from Russian servicemen, as they have committed 11,000 North Korean infantrymen to help now Russia in their war against the Ukraine. Many Cubans waited in anguish over the weekend. Some took to the streets to protest blackouts that have now stretched into the third day, and those concerns were heightened as a major tropical storm headed toward Cuba's eastern coast with winds and heavy rain. They haven't had electricity there for days. Their food is rotting. Protesters said they have no water either. The street is blocked with garbage. Their energy minister said that they hope the electrical grid will be restored by either sometime today or sometime tomorrow. In Cuba's capital, most of the electricity is out. In Havana, 2 million people live there. Orange life jackets were bobbing in the water where bystanders rushed to form a human chain for the passing survivors to safety. Others shouldered the task of wrapping bodies in blankets and carrying them to shore. A frantic scene after an aluminum gangway collapsed Saturday at a boat dock on Georgia's Barrier Island. It was supposed to be a big day of celebration, big festival spotlighting culture down there. The collapse occurred when visitors were boarding a ferry to get back to the mainland. 40 people were standing on the gangway when it gave out. 20 of them fell into the waters of the Atlantic where a strong tidal current pulled them out to sea. It was chaotic, but the way it looks, 7 people have died, still searching for others. 2 crew members who were missing following a crash of a fighter jet in the mountains in Washington state during a routine training flight have been found declared dead. It was an EA-18G Growler jet from the Electronic Attack Squadron. It crashed east of Mount Rainier. Search teams launched the Naval Air Rescue from Whidbey Island to find the crash site. The crew members were declared deceased, and now they have shifted it into salvage and recovery operations. On the campaign trail, Elon Musk is pledging to give away $1 million a day to voters for signing his Political Action Committee's petition that backs the U.S. Constitution. It's raising questions and alarms among some election experts who said it could be a violation of the law to link a cash handout to signing a petition that requires a person to be registered to vote. He promised Saturday he'd give away that daily amount until November 5th election for people signing his PAC's petition supporting the First Amendment, which protects freedom of speech, and the Second Amendment, which protects the right to keep and bear arms. Number of people casting ballots on the first day of early person voting in North Carolina exceeded their first-day total 4 years ago, even as Hurricane Helene has made it really impossible for a lot of people in the mountains to get out. State Board of Elections said they recorded 353,000 people that cast ballots on Thursday. That's close to 5,000 more than on the first day back in 2020. Pennsylvania, they have a huge Jewish population. In fact, the largest of any swing state. Any shift could have enormous implications in their state when it comes to the presidential election. Kamala Harris has had to walk a line between traditional Democrat constituencies with strong feelings about Israel's war in Gaza. Donald Trump has looked to use that opening among the Jewish voters, saying he's the best friend of Jewish Americans that they've had in the White House. Jewish people overwhelmingly have been voting Democrat for years and years, but the anti-Semitic approach by the Democrats when it comes to Israel and protecting the Jewish population there is having an effect on who they support or president. American voters are hearing from both parties in their promise to help the middle class if they win the election. People have heard it before. The disconnect is seen in vivid terms in Arizona. That's also viewed as a key presidential battleground. Housing and other costs in Arizona have gone through the roof. Voters who feel the pinch said neither Democrat Kamala Harris or President Trump is addressing their plight. They said today the United States never been as wealthy, even though a lot of people are still finding themselves being left behind. Struggled to find a home or an apartment. Rents have tripled just in the past year or so. Some rents went from $625 to $1,800 a month in Mesa, Arizona. 200,000 letter carriers around the country have reached a contract deal with the post office. It includes some backdated pay raises and a promise to provide workers with air-conditioned trucks. The new agreement Friday needs to be ratified by the union members. It will run through 2026. Letter carriers have been working without a new contract. Their old one expired in May of 23. They continued working, though. Both the union and Postal Service welcome the agreement. Among other things, the contract increases the top pay and reduces the amount of time it takes new workers to reach that level of top pay. Voters in Arizona and Massachusetts will decide whether employers should be able to continue to pay tipped workers, such as servers and bartenders, a lower minimum wage than non-tipped workers. Arizona voters will decide whether to widen the hourly pay gap between those two sets. Massachusetts voters will decide whether to eliminate the gap. The ballot measure reflects an accelerating debate over the so-called sub-minimum wage, which advocates said is essential to the stability of the service industry. Currently, there are 7 states that require employers to pay all workers at least the minimum wage, regardless of tips that they get. Arizona employers can pay their tipped workers, for instance, $3 less per hour than other workers if they get tipped. Asians shares mixed today on the foreign exchanges, Tokyo and others. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index sank. Shanghai was up today. U.S. stocks on Friday were up. Oil prices climbed after tumbling last week because they're worrying about Israel's retribution on Iran could be targeting some of their Iranian oil facilities as part of the retaliation on the missile attack in Tel Aviv earlier in the month. Crude oil was $69.21 a barrel earlier last week, now up to $73.47 per barrel. The S&P was up 0.4 of a point. The Dow was up 0.1 of a point, and NASDAQ was up 0.6 of 1 percentage point on Friday. Striking workers at Boeing, they're going to vote this week on a new offer. Could end their walkout. It's been a month. Boeing and the union representing their machinists said they've negotiated a new proposal that would raise their pay 35% over 4 years and give them a bonus of $7,000 per worker. That's kind of a nice little perk.
Why aren't we signing this?
Because they're holding them at gunpoint. Hundreds of frozen waffle products sold at retailers like Walmart and Target being recalled could be contaminated with Listeria. Treehouse Foods announced the recall Friday. Consumers should throw them out or at least return them then to the store for credit. Could cause mild illness, fever, diarrhea, that kind of stuff. Sold under a variety of names, including Walmart's Great Value name, Target's Good and Gather, and some others that were sold at Kroger's and around the country. Workers at 7 CVS pharmacies in Southern California, they're on strike. They want better pay. The strike affects 4 stores in L.A., 3 in Orange County, and they're urging customers not to cross the picket line. Yeah, I'm not going to go in there. I need this prescription to stay alive, but since you're striking, I won't go in and get it, okay, you asshole? God, Mark. Well, I'm sorry. October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which means the perfect time to learn how to protect yourself from some of these scams that you get. Scammers are always finding new ways to steal money, get your information. They said consumers need to be more vigilant about who you trust online. MasterCard's deputy security chief says, remember the 3 S's if you think you're being scammed. Be suspicious, stop for a minute and think, and stay protected online. Well, the Democrats must be getting desperate. They're trying to make another issue out of Tim Sheehy and his wound. There's a Park Service ranger that's come forth and said he believes that he was lying about the bullet wound he got when he was fighting in Afghanistan. Former Ranger Kim Peach said that a gun fell out of his car when he was at Glacier Park once and discharged. That could be the reason for the wound. She was awarded a Purple Heart for wounds that he got in separate combat incidents and also was awarded a Bronze Star. And attorneys for Tim Sheehy said his recent statements differ from the facts and declarations submitted by the Ranger, though, when he was interviewed in 2015. And now that Sheehy is running for office, all of a sudden, they found this park ranger. Now, he's denied any connection with the Tester campaign or any Democrat organizations. And he posted a photo of himself, though, on social media wearing a Make Lying Wrong Again hat and said he's voting for Democrats in the election. So, folks, take it with a grain of salt. And Americans who think of these petrified hot dogs and frozen burritos that you get when you go into a gas station or a convenience store, U.S. convenience stores are starting to offer more and better food, from 7-Eleven to Quick Trip to other store chains. They're adding now some better stuff. Sit-down seating in the convenience stores, expanding their coffee menus now to rival places like Starbucks and others. They're even experiencing with made-to-order meals. Moves are happening as convenience store operators seek ways to offset slowing sales of cigarettes and soft drinks. They don't need to sell a map anymore.
No.
Because everybody has Siri or navigation on their cars. Experts said the improved offerings are posing a risk now to fast food restaurants, as they'll be able to make deli sandwiches, build your own burgers, all those kind of things. They have breakfast burritos and sandwiches now that, well, hell, last week when we were out at the Town and Country Supply Store out there, I mean, they're making fresh pizzas and
the pizza was good.
Wings and all kinds of stuff out there now. So it's not like any more of those rotisseries where you have seen that same hot dog turning on that thing for days.
Since the last time you were in that store?
Days. I mean, the skin of it looked like Phyllis Diller's face. Just wrinkled, and God knows how long those have been on there, Wilson. But you don't have to worry. You don't like the shape. Cat Country News Time is 6:45. Sports and weather next.
In sports, big weekend for sports. The NFL, Major League Baseball. We know who's in the World Series now. And the Minnesota Lynx have lost to New York in the WNBA Finals. And the coach of the Lynx is beside herself, angry with the officiating, saying that a call was given to Breanna Stewart with 5.8 seconds left that was not a foul.
Oh, yeah?
And I've watched the video. It depends on which team you're rooting for. Because if you're a New York fan, that was a foul.
I see there were a lot of complaints over the weekend about the Kansas City game again.
Yeah.
Getting calls and
Right.
and stuff like that. So, it's just going to happen.
And I watched that game, and San Francisco's got so many guys hurt. They lost another receiver. Their number 7 receiver, I think, is just a little bit slower than I am. I think they're in trouble.
Okay. Nice day today. Great day to golf. 74 degrees today. A little bit of a light breeze, nothing real heavy. Tomorrow we cool off to 58. Wednesday back up to 64. Right now we're in the 40s, about 46 now downtown at 6:47. That's what's happening. Mark and Paul here together. Thanks for tuning into the Cat.